Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wade. It is May 13th. Today's episode, we're going back to Shane Idleman land. For the uninitiated, Shane is a MAGA pastor from California who used to have a decent reputation for Bible preaching. And then COVID hit, and he got hit upside the head with the MAGA stick, and he reopened his church in the height of the pandemic, sticking his thumb right into the eye of the California authority, told him not to, something he defends to this day, even though there's absolutely no defense for it whatsoever. Complete violation of the Bible, of Romans 13. He knows it. So, I had briefly gotten into something with him on his page. Basically accused me of being a troll, so another badge of honor I get to wear. So instead of having a conversation with him about this, because he clearly doesn't want to have a conversation, we're going to take another trip through his last 2 days of Facebook posts. Somebody who claims he's not beholden to the Republican Party, not beholden to Republican politics, yet if you look at his page, it's nothing but propaganda from the right wing. It's nothing but idolatry of Donald Trump and of the right wing in this party. But the real problem is that in the course of that, he veers into strictly political stuff that a pastor shouldn't necessarily be saying or doing or promoting. So ask yourselves as we go through this, why is a pastor posting this? There's one in particular we're going to focus on, but we're going to start with a couple of others. So this is 5 hours ago. NBC investigates a nonprofit that got its $18 million a month contract ended by Doge, finds empty facility and revenue of $1.1 billion in 2022. Anyone else thankful for Doge? Okay. Why is a pastor posting this? Number one. Number two, is the story being factually represented in this meme? The answer, of course, is no. They did have a contract. They had a contract for many, many years. And one of the things that the primary thing that they do is they were providing very needed services for refugees and migrants teenage migrants specifically, to try to help them with a lot of the trauma that they had coming from the countries that they were coming from. But the government stopped sending them people in 2024, I believe, and required, according to their contract, to still be ready to take people if the government so warranted. So is this waste, fraud, and abuse? I think that you can argue that certainly it's wasteful. $18 million a month to basically be ready but not actually provide services. I would agree. I can't testify to the $1.1 billion. That sounds a little much. But also in 2022, they were actually providing services. So whatever the contract was, the way procurement works, which again, Shane Idleman doesn't stay in his lane. He's a pastor. He's not a procurement expert. I, however, have worked with government, local government, which is the same type of procurement rules. And they put contracts out to bid, and nonprofits or for-profits bid on it. And then they win the contract based upon the proposal they wrote, based upon the budgets that were set. So if this nonprofit was being paid $18 million a month, they have a budget that they have to outline and provide to the federal government to be able to provide the services the federal government wants. Now, you can make the argument that it's too much money. That's fine. Certainly the Trump administration is more than welcome to review things and decide this is not in the country's interest, that this is. I mean, new administrations do that all the time. What you don't get to do is come back out and pretend years after the fact that somehow something malicious was going on and Doge is getting to the bottom of it. Doge ain't getting to the bottom of pretty much anything. The reality is that most of the stuff that they post on their website has been debunked. And it's nowhere near the 2 trillion or the 1 trillion that they had promised. And it was never going to be, because discretionary spending in this country is only 1.8 trillion to begin with. So even if you eliminated all services, that's all you could possibly save. So, but the real insidious thing here is, it's easy to, and this is what propaganda does, is it latches on to one story. And by the way, maybe we can all agree that 18 million a month was too much, and it should be curtailed, scaled back, or eliminated. I don't have an argument with that. What you don't get to do is pretend that somehow exonerates Doge from the other things they've cut that have been absolutely brutal and unbiblical and unchristian. I would just start with USAID, which of course was dragged through the mud, and terminating that agency basically meant no measures to control the spread of Ebola in this world. And you may say, well, Ebola's not here. We live in an international world. All it takes is one person coming on an airplane to this country that has a disease that we were actively involved in stopping, and then you'll see how much it matters. Okay? It stopped research into the stopping the spread of HIV. It cut off oxygen supplies for little old ladies in Thailand, if I remember correctly. They show these little stories, these little nuggets, and they say, "Oh, thank God for Doge," but they don't tell you all the other people that are being hurt. This, the stopping of cancer research, which is an absolutely real thing. So now, these are all political distinctions. They're all political conversations. And that's the problem. Shane Idleman is not a politician. He just cosplays as one, like he cosplays as a pastor these days. And that's the real problem, is that he's putting on his Facebook page, and he, when he got upset with me, he was like, basically I'm not allowed to post what I want. No, you're not. You have to be careful with what you post, because you have a following. You have tens of thousands of people who follow you, but you have however many are actually in your church, and you're leading them. And double responsibility is placed upon people who labor in preaching, which you know. So, yeah, I think you have a responsibility to, stick to your lane and things that you know about. But instead, because he worships Donald Trump and the Republican Party, he's plugged into all of this disinformation on the right. And whatever he gets, he just posts. And we'll show some of that. So the very next thing is from Libs of TikTok. And this is a well-designed video. I'm not going to show the video because it's relatively disgusting. The complaint here is that there's a female softball player who was, I guess, once male, transgender. And apparently they're very good, and they're striking out a lot of people, and parents are upset. And I don't even want to discuss the politics of it. It's once again, why is a pastor posting this? And more importantly, his own comment, I'm not sure if you see here, is unbelievable. How did we even let this garbage slip in? Garbage. Whether or not, whatever your beliefs might be about the struggles within this world for people who are facing this transgender ideology, for a pastor to come out and take a stand and refer to the human being involved in this story as garbage kind of lets you know what happens when you allow the debasing of your mind based on politics. Okay? I don't know this person. And Shane doesn't know this person. But this person's got a family. This person's probably loved by her family. And there's a good chance, or at least a possible chance, that people within her family are actually brothers and sisters in Christ. And this national pastor is now in public calling their son, daughter, garbage. And I think that we can all take a stand against such disgusting rhetoric against other people, no matter how strongly we might feel about the issue at hand. The people involved are still people. May 11th, says 2 days ago, Trump holding to his promises. Just look at China at the negotiating table as well. So, from a political standpoint, basically, Donald Trump wrecked the economy, and he jacked up the tariffs on China to 145%, and now he's caving. Everybody knows that. That's what you see. And his caving has brought China back to the table, and they basically have reset. He actually posted a Donald Trump tweet about that. But he's posting this as if, again, like this is like promises kept, when the reality is that, it's not Trump's actions that brought China back to the table. It was his caving on his actions. But it doesn't matter because, again, I want to put aside the politics of it. Why is a pastor of whose responsibility is preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ retweeting and reposting basically talking points for the right wing? And by the way, this is within a post, a meme from Todd Coconato, another absolute NAR Dominionist shill, that Zelensky agrees to meet with Putin. Like, this is it'd be interesting to ask Shane what side he's on in the Ukraine war, because if you're on Putin's side, I don't think you're on God's side. I really don't. Somebody who, basically invaded another country and, uses his cluster bombs to like kill kids on Easter and stuff like that. But hey, what do I know? And lastly, which is the main one here, again, why is the pastor of the gospel of Jesus Christ posting this? And his comment is fake news alert. No surprise here. And what he does is he posts a tweet from the Department of Homeland Security that says the narrative that DHS is deporting American children is false and irresponsible reporting in response to something from Texas Public Radio. So, I mean, let's just deal with the fact that Homeland Security's tweet is in and of itself false. It's already a verified fact that there have been 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 American children who have been deported. There's no question. One of them, I might add, had stage 4 cancer, and they deported them without their medication because, Jesus. So this isn't fake news. That's ridiculous. And not only that, it's insulting. And I expect this from DHS. Don't get me wrong. I understand why DHS does not want the impression of what they're actually doing. So they're hiding under this guise that, we asked the parent, hey, what do you want to do with your kid? You're going one way or the other. What do you want to do with the kid? And a lot of not a lot, because there's only 3 or 4 cases I know about, but in one of the cases, you know what? Let's actually go to the Newsweek story about this. Why it matters. The family's detention and subsequent deportation comes amid an immigration crackdown under the Trump administration. President Trump vowed to prevent undocumented immigrants with criminal histories and backgrounds entering and staying in the U.S. He pledged to launch the largest mass deportation operation in history. He's detained and deported thousands of people since he taken office. The administration has been under fire after several other U.S. citizen children have been removed from the country. It's already a verified fact, Shane. It's not fake news. Government officials maintain the children were not forcibly removed, but accompanied their undocumented mothers who had been deported. The Trump administration has been accused of disregarding due process protections, especially for vulnerable groups such as U.S.-born children of undocumented immigrants. The president and supporters say their efforts are necessary to deter illegal immigration and remove criminals from the country quickly. By the way, to my knowledge, the mothers in these stories were not criminals. So, and before you start thinking they were here illegally, that's a misdemeanor. Okay, they're not criminals. They're human beings. After Texas state troopers pulled over Vargas and her husband Omar in Austin on May 1st for expired license tags, the pair was turned over to ICE. Omar was taken into custody immediately, with the New Republic reporting that he was deported to Mexico shortly after. Vargas was dismissed with an ankle monitor and allowed to pick up her children from school. On May 6th, she arrived at the immigration appointment with her 3 children, ages 9, 5, and 4, two of whom are U.S. citizens. The nonprofit Grassroots Leadership reported that she and all children were then taken into custody. So she shows up for an immigration appointment. So she's doing what she's supposed to be doing, and they use the immigration appointment to basically put them all into custody to deport them. Daniel Hatom, an attorney with the Texas Civil Rights Project, told local KUT News that Vargas believed her appointment was for the benefit of her partner, who was already deported, adding that she went with the 3 children and ICE decided to arrest all of them. There's recently been a spate of similar incidents reported with individuals attending immigration appointments that have led to arrests and subsequent detentions. Because again, Jesus. Grassroots leadership says Vargas called the organization to inform them that she and her family had been deported to Mexico, where Vargas is from. During the 24-hour period from when the family was detained by ICE until they were deported to Mexico, attempts by community and legal advocates to determine what happened and their whereabouts were rejected. So they're in custody, and the lawyers are trying to get a hold of them, and they're being denied. The statement continued, ICE was informed by the family and legal advocates that the children were U.S. citizens, and ICE knowingly deported them anyway in violation of their own policies and laws. ICE has no authority to detain or deport U.S. citizens regardless of their status of their parents. 3 legal groups said Denise, I guess that's the last name, or maybe it's the first name, entered the U.S. in 2016 seeking protection, fearing further violence from her abusive former partner. DHS said that on X, she failed to appear before her immigration judge and was issued the final order removal in 2019. So what people are saying, Executive Director of Grassroots Leadership, this is not just a deportation, it's potential erasure of an entire family, including 2 children born in this country. Incredibly traumatizing for the children. Our community deserves answers. The family deserves dignity, due process, and to remain in Austin where they belong, Austin, Texas. So obviously these people are against. What happens next? It remains unclear what legal steps should be required to bring the 2 U.S. citizens back into this country, or if they were offered to stay with relatives stateside. So once again, and in one of these stories, it was reported that they absolutely wanted the child to stay, and DHS basically said no. So I say this again, not to get into necessarily a conversation about immigration, which, we can have that conversation. I've done podcasts on this before. There's absolutely no Christian defense for what's happening. None. But once again, the point is, why is a pastor posting a lie? I know why he's posting it because it lines up with his politics. So he wants to believe that, what mainstream media is reporting is a lie, that these were not U.S. children, U.S. citizens, but they were, and they were deported with the parent, and in some cases maliciously. Like in one case, again, stage 4 cancer, deported without the medicine. In another case, the father willing to keep the child, not allowed. So, the bottom line is the powers that be in this country can hash all that out. We can have that discussion politically. But somebody who's supposed to be representing Christ and the gospel should not be reposting tweets that are factually inaccurate and, quite frankly, at their heart, completely unchristian. And he should know better. But he doesn't care. And I think that that's been obvious in my interactions with Shane. It's a sad statement. I recently did a podcast on Jack Hibbs, who did a teaching on the immigration situation, because again, Hibbs worships everything MAGA and Trump, and so he has to defend it. But you can't defend it, because the only thing you can do is point to like Old Testament scriptures about borders. No one's making an argument that a country can't have borders. We're making an argument about how you treat the immigrant, which is pretty well detailed in Scripture. And I think, God, I believe Shane knows that. I mean, it's one of the qualifications on the last day when Jesus says, I was a stranger and what? You put me on a plane to a El Salvador prison? No, it says, I was a stranger and you took me in. And the amount of malice and cruelty being displayed by alleged Christians in the pursuit of everything MAGA is just simply disgusting. So, and again, this ain't a political discussion. This is a biblical discussion. And I welcome, listen, feel free to comment. And, if you feel like you've got some kind of scriptural basis for what's going on, I'll be happy to have that discussion. But I can guarantee you, you are not correct. The only thing you can point to is very Old Testament scriptures that have to do with the establishment of the nation of Israel, not the establishment of a completely secular country that has different denominations and religions, and it runs the whole gamut. And again, it's how do you treat people? I know that I won the "Where Were You Born" lottery because I was born in this country, but I don't think that gives me any special right to lord it over other people. And again, all I'm saying is due process. Give them their day in court. 80 to 85% of people who apply for asylum are denied. They end up having to go home anyway. So, follow the law. Am I crazy for invoking Romans 13? I don't. It seems like MAGA pastors are willing to just abandon the Bible any chance they get to support their idol, because dominionism is the last idol of the church age. So thank you for stopping by. Leave your comments, give it a thumbs up, share it, ring the bell, all that fun stuff. And, test everything and hold fast.